G'day guys, welcome to this episode of Aussie English. Today I'm going to be breaking down this video from Tristan Kuhn's channel on YouTube, 20 Dirty Australian Slang Words and Phrases. Now I haven't listened to or watched this video yet. I have no idea how dirty, filthy he's going to go. So as a disclaimer and a warning, if this is not your sort of topic, turn it off now. And if there are children around who you don't want to be, allowing to listen to this sort of stuff, also turn it off and listen in private. Anyway, let's just get into it and see what he has to say.
What's good, y'all? Tristan here, and today we're going to be going over to the dark side of Australian English. We're going to be talking about the most gruesome, vile, nasty, dirty, perverted Australian words. Words that you would never say around your mother. So, if you have weak ears, if you don't like sexual, dirty topics, then click off this video, leave now. But if you want to know some dirty Australian slang, you want to get a little taste of what they say here down under, then keep watching, because we're getting right into it. 20 dirty Australian slang words.
Alright, so it sounds like they're going to be dirty words, and they sound like they're not going to be for children or your mother's ears. So again, you've been warned. I haven't seen this yet. I'm going to react to it, so let's see.
Number 1 is a slapper. A slapper is a slut, a whore, a dirty slapper. Number 2.
Alright, slapper. I think I've heard of this being thrown around, although I think it's usually spelled S-L-A-P-P-E-R, though it's not a slang term that I have ever used myself, and I don't think I've heard many people use this around me at all either.
Is a wristy, or a rough wristy, and that means a hand job.
Alright, so he got that one. So a wristy is a hand job, and I guess for those of you who don't know, it is where a woman or a man is giving a hand job to another man, and it's a wristy because you're using your wrist. So dirty fast. We got into the dirty ones fast.
You're giving someone a wristy or a rough wristy, then you are giving them.
I haven't heard them say rough wristy before. That just adds another level to it, like they're doing it with sandpaper or something. Jesus.
A hand job. Number 3 is shag. Shag.
Oh man, shag's a good one. Alright, so everyone uses shag in Australia. This is just to have sex in general. It's kind of a little bit crass in that I wouldn't say, I wouldn't use it the same way I would say something like to make love to someone. I wouldn't refer to my wife and say, yeah, we had a shag the other day, unless I was really trying to be silly, stupid, informal with my mates, generally who are going to be guys. I wouldn't use that in front of other women, usually, unless, you can tell it's very informal and they get Aussie slang and, that they're not going to be phased. But yes, a shag is the act of having sex. To shag someone, to have a shag. Very popular in Australia.
Shag means to fuck, to have sex. You gonna shag? Yeah, we shagged. But if that is not a dirty enough way to say sex for you.
I don't know where we get it from. I don't know what shag originally meant. But yeah, it definitely means to have sex in Australian English.
Don't worry, because we got another one. And that is root.
This is a good one too. So root, sorry, I should probably let him finish, but root is how Australians would refer to, again, like a shag, having sex. We had a root. I rooted her, she rooted me, we had a shag. But Americans will use root in a different way from Australians to mean to support a team in sport. Australians will say to support a team in sport or to barrack for a team. Americans will say root for a team, and this always seems to make the average Australian sort of giggle a little bit, because how is having a shag going to help your sport team?
To get a root, to get some sex, to have sex. I don't think women would ever say this. This is strictly for the boys. You get a.
I don't know about that. I think that there would be certain women who would probably say this, but again, it's vulgar language, it's informal language, it's slang, so you're not going to use this unless you're with very close friends informally, and it's kind of a laid-back, fun time where you're having conversations about this sort of stuff. But yeah, in general conversation, it's probably not going to come up.
A root last night? Oh, fuck yeah, man. Got a root. In similar fashion, we got number 5, which is a root rat. A root rat is a sex addict, someone who really likes sex. Always looking for sex, always.
A root rat. I've never heard that one before. A root rat. Someone always looking for sex. Alright, that's an interesting one. I guess I learnt something in this video. Something to mention is in Australian slang we will use rat to sort of mean it's kind of a derogatory term for a person. It's not gendered, so it could be a woman, it could be a guy. It doesn't really matter too much, but that, you know, you'll call someone a scum rat, or you might call someone a real surf rat, you know, and the idea would be they love doing that sort of thing. Like if they were a surf rat, I would imagine. I don't know if that's a thing, but a surf rat would be someone who's a young kid or a small guy who just loves going surfing all the time. You know, he's a beach rat, surf rat. But yeah, never heard root rat before.
Hooking up with people, always chasing after someone in the bars. You know, that, my friend, is a root rat. Number 6, and that is crack a fat. If you crack a
Oh my god. These are terms that I used when I was a kid, you know, when I was probably in primary school and we were first learning about our bodies, especially in sex education classes, right? We get those from grade 5 or 6 when we're about 11 years old. And, you know, the person teaching the sexual education class might say, let's talk about erections. And one of the kids might be, is that the same thing as cracking a fat? So cracking a fat is to get an erection, to become erect in Australian English, to crack a fat. But that's very childish language. It's something that young children or maybe young teenagers would use. You might also hear get a boner. That would be something that, if I was going to use a vulgar way of talking about getting an erection, I would say, you know, I got a boner, or he got a boner, or I can see his boner. But I would say that way, way, way over crack a fat. That just sounds humorous and young.
Fat, that means you're getting an erection. You are getting a stiff boner. Number 7.
Another one would be a stiffy. And that was from when I was a young kid too at primary school, you know, oh my god, he's got a stiffy, he's got a stiffy. And that would be a stiff penis, a stiffy, making it Australian slang, so he's got an erection.
And we got gobby. Getting some gobby is to be getting head, to get a blowjob. Gobby is definitely one of my favorite dirty Aussie words.
Alright, so gobby, I guess the basic idea here, as you said, it's a blowjob, or to give a woman oral sex, to give her head, but it would be to use your gob, which is your mouth, right? So you can use that in a non-sexual way and just say, shut your gob, you know, or he's always got his gob open. So gob is mouth, and gobby is a blowjob. Again, vulgar, informal, probably not something I would use unless I was specifically trying to be gross, funny, humorous, and very informal.
Next up is a fuckwit. A fuckwit is a fuckwit. It's an idiot. I don't know how else to say.
This is a beautiful one to use in Australian English. I use this probably on a daily basis, especially when driving. There are quite often a lot of fuckwits driving around on the roads. You know, they cut you off, they do stupid things, they're fucking idiots, they're fuckwits. So you'll hear this a lot in Australia. It's the same as sort of a moron, a muppet, a dingbat, an idiot, a fucking idiot, a fuckwit. And wit would be how clever they are. So obviously putting fuck in that somehow makes it negative and they're stupid.
They're just a fucking idiot. They're a fuckwit. This one is not as harsh as the past couple, but it is used a lot, and that is a wanker. You fucking wanker.
The weird thing is this guy's spelling them all with an A at the end. Wanker would never be spelt with an A at the end. It would be spelt with an ER at the end. A wanker, right? Like as in a person who does something. You put the ER on the end of it. A player, right? ER, not A. We'll say it as a wanker, but we spell it with an ER. Anyway, to wank can be a verb, and again, it means to masturbate, right? So if you are a wanker, you are someone who masturbates a lot, and for whatever reason, Australian, culture has decided that people who wank a lot are wankers. They are annoying, stupid, frustrating. It's kind of a light way of saying fuckwit, right? He's a bit of a wanker, but again, informal. The good thing is too, I should mention, we're not thinking about the act of masturbation when we call someone a wanker. So the same with fuckwit or any of these sort of insults. You don't really think about the act in and of itself. It just has this negative connotation. Oh, that guy's a wanker.
Fucking dickhead. A wanker is just like a dickhead. Someone who's, kind of like an asshole, an idiot. Hard to really pinpoint a definition of wanker, but I'd say the closest word to it is probably a dickhead.
A good example would be someone who makes stupid jokes all the time. Oh god, he's just always doing that. He's a bit of a wanker, but he's an alright guy, but can be a bit of a wanker.
It's a fucking wanker. Alright, now the next three, I did not learn from hearing people say them, but I learned them from Cards Against Humanity Australian Edition, where they have some cards that are related to just Australia, and I gotta say, some of those cards are pretty good, and taught me some real dirty Australian slang.
I should probably sort of give you some context here. Cards Against Humanity is a card game. I haven't played it in a very long time, but it's where you'll get dealt out cards that will say different phrases on them. Quite often, extreme phrases, you know, like married a Nazi, and then the black guy walked in, or, you know, white people are, and you have to kind of use these cards to bring them together to make really horrible statements, and that's why it's called Cards Against Humanity, at least as far as I remember. But he's talking about apparently there being an Australian edition, so this will be interesting.
So, brace yourself. The first one is a soggy sayo. A sayo is short for a square Australian biscuit. And a soggy sayo is pretty much when a bunch of guys get in a circle and they wank, they jack off, they do a little circle jerk onto a sayo, onto a little square biscuit, and the last one to finish has to eat the biscuit.
Oh my god. So this was a myth that used to go around, and again, please God, I hope there are no children or people who are easily offended watching this. When we were growing up and at school, there was this myth going around that young boys, whether they were gay or not, would play a game where they stood in a circle and had to masturbate and ejaculate, cum, on a biscuit. And the last person to come on the biscuit had to eat the biscuit. I've never actually met anyone who's actually taken part in this sort of stuff. I've just heard. It was always one of those rumours that would go around, like, oh yeah, that guy, he plays Soggy Biscuit. And we would call it Soggy Biscuit. I never heard of it being called Soggy Sayo. So that's the first I've heard of it here. But yeah, that is so weird that he's learnt that. And it's so weird that that's obviously going around in other parts of Australia. I always thought that was just a dumb rumour from my school.
Hence the name Soggy Sayo. You don't believe me?
Soggy too, by the way, is like, what would you say, moist, wet. It's absorbed a lot of water. And apparently he's found it on whatever this is, the slang dictionary online.
This is literally the definition on Urban Dictionary.
Oh, it's interesting there. Game played by homosexual or confused young men, usually at boarding schools, although I don't know why school is spelled S-K-O-O-L, such as Trinity Grammar or King's. So there you go, that stereotype is also there, because I went to one of those toffee, wankery private schools as well, so I guess that's why it was why it was coming around at that school.
Next up is a diggery-dildo. So a diggery-doo is an instrument that looks like this.
Oh my god, did he just call it a diggery-doo? Mate, you've got it. Ah, okay, yeah, he said I said it wrong. Yeah, diggery-doo, didgeridoo, didgeridoo. It is an indigenous instrument that, well, got one right behind me, to be honest. You know what a didgeridoo is, right? So, I assume what this is going to be referring to is a didgeridoo being used as a sexual tool. A dildo, which is something that is phallic, resembles a penis, and is used for intercourse with men or women. But I've never heard didgeridildo. But, you know, sounds funny.
This that the indigenous people of Australia play. Well, a diggery-dildo is pretty much a dildo that is the size of one of those instruments, a giant dildo.
Okay, never seen that or heard of that anywhere in Australia. I can't imagine anyone could ever use a dildo as big as a didgeridoo.
That chick is loose as a goose down there. She could take a diggery-dildo. Next up, we got dry as a witch's tit, or dry as a dead dingo's donger. And this just means you're really thirsty, but not thirsty for like water, like thirsty for beer.
What? No. Does it? Thirsty for alcohol. Dry as a witch's tit, dry as a dead dingo's donger. I think I've heard both of those before, but I don't think I've ever heard them referring to someone wanting to drink alcohol. You know, someone might refer to the desert as being as dry as a witch's tit. And I don't know why witches have breasts that are dry. Don't know. I get the dry as a dead dingo's donger, which is referring to the dingo dog being dead but having a penis, a donger, that is very dry because the animal's dead and dried up in the outback, I guess. But again, I've only ever heard it used for either describing an environment as being very dry, or really crassly to describe a woman as being very dry downstairs. Again, this is not very common. It's kind of a stereotype, but yeah, that's how you're going to hear it used. I've never heard it for thirsty for alcohol.
Thirsty for another drink. The bartender's moving slow. There's a big line. Ah, man, I'm freaking dry as a witch's tit. Next up, number 13, and that is bat or crank. To have a bat, have a crank.
He's talking about masturbation again. So this is to have a wank. To bat, I guess it would be like playing cricket. To bat, because you got a piece of wood in your hand, maybe. And to crank, I guess that's kind of like if you were, you know, cranking something. A mechanic might crank something, I guess. You know, crank shaft. You're pulling on a lever kind of thing. Both of them are talking about masturbation.
It means to masturbate, to jack off, to jerk it, choke your chicken.
To jack off, to jerk it, they're American versions.
Whatever you want to call it, but just know in Australia there are 2 more ways to say it, and that is bat and crank. Number 14 is an axe wound, and an axe wound is just a vagina. I think we might have this in America, but I don't know, I haven't really heard it in America before, I don't think, like maybe once. Also,
I think that's just a really crass term. I don't know if that's uniquely Australian. I've heard axe wound and gash to refer to the way in which a vagina can look like a wound. If you really want to be crass again, I'm really surprised he had that in there. Oh, Jesus.
Something you can know, here's a little bonus one, is fanny. So in America, fanny is like a polite way to say like your butt. Like you say it's like a kid, like oh, like your bottom, your fanny, your behind. But in Australia, your fanny does not refer to your ass. A fanny in Australia refers to a vagina. Next up is...
So that's it. Again, this is very young language. So this is kind of like crack a fat or have a stiffy or something. Crack a stiffy. From primary school, people would say fanny, you know, and willy or something for your genitals. So the girl would have a fanny, the boy would have a willy, but it's not something adults would ever say. I think at least most adults, unless they're being stupid, ironic. But yeah, fanny. And it's one of those things you hear Americans say it, and again, it makes us laugh because they're talking about their bums, or they might be talking about a bum bag, that we would call it, those little bags you strap around your waist. They call them fanny packs. I don't know why they have a pack of fannies in them, but yeah, that always made me giggle.
Is a franger, and a franger is a condom. Kind of like how we say in America rubbers, but here in Australia, rubber doesn't mean condom, it means...
Don't know why it's called a franger.
Eraser. Speaking of condoms, you're going to want to put one on here.
That's true as well. They call rubbers, they call condoms rubbers in America. We would refer to a rubber as something to rub out, you know, a pencil on some paper. And fella, he's going to talk about fella, which is again probably talking about his penis.
Old fella. Because here in Australia, old fella, your old fella is a way to refer to your penis. Penis, what am I, 12? Your cock, your schlong, your dick, your phallus, I don't know, whatever you want to...
That's so funny though. He's like, penis, what am I, 12? It's kind of the inverse. An adult would use penis. Someone else using, you know, cock or whatever would be a lot younger, I feel.
Next up, number 17, and that is pash. Pash in Australia just means to make out. The next 3 are...
Yeah, pash, to kiss passionately, right? To kiss passionately, to pash someone. They're making out, they're passion, they're having a kiss.
All words that we do say, I guess, in America, like, it's not like they're like words you've never heard of, but they're words that we just don't actually use. And here in Australia, they love these words. These are like 3 of their favorite words. They say them all the time. And that is 1, fuckhead. A fuckhead. A fuckhead is someone who is fucked in the head. Someone who's just stupid and annoying. They're a fuckhead. Next.
I'm surprised Americans don't use that. I'm pretty sure I've heard Americans say fuckhead before. I didn't think that was uniquely Australian. But again, that is just someone who is an idiot. An asshole. Oh man, that guy's such a wanker. He's such a fuckhead. I hate that guy. He's a fuckhead.
Next up, and I realized I kind of said this one in the beginning, but that is a dickhead. A dickhead is a jerk, an idiot. Of all the things I've said, that might be the number 1 used slur here in Australia. Actually, I totally take that back. That is the number 2 most said slur, dirty word, or whatever in Australia. Because the number 1 most commonly...
I have a feeling he's going to drop the C-bomb here. I'm not sure, but I have a feeling he's going to say C-U-N-T. Let's see.
Said dirty Australian word is cunt. I feel wrong just saying it. In America, that is like one of the worst words you can use. It is incredibly harsh. It is offensive. People will take a step back if they hear you say that. However, that is the total opposite here in Australia. In Australia, cunt isn't even a bad word. It hardly even has a negative connotation here. I mean, I guess it depends what group you're with, but it's definitely not any worse than like any other like curse word.
Yes, it is. It's still definitely bad, mate. But yeah, you will hear this used all the time in Australia. It can be both an insult or a compliment. My dad always says this, you know, it's an ironic word where someone can be a total cunt, meaning they're a very horrible person, and someone can be an absolute mad cunt or sick cunt, and that's like they're an awesome person. They're just great. They're the best. It's, you know, this is my mate Billy, and he's a fucking sick cunt. He's so good at skating. He's an absolute sick cunt. He's a mad cunt. And this guy, Bob, oh man, I hate that guy. He's a total fuckhead. He's a total cunt. Absolute cunt. Man, I feel bad saying all these words. But it's good to sort of give you some reference, right? Some material to learn about this stuff. The other thing is, I would personally avoid using cunt to describe a woman unless it is I'm trying to describe this imaginary woman as the worst person, the most horrible human being that I can imagine insulting. So you may imagine that you're a liberal in Australia, or not a liberal, rather someone on the left, and they hate Pauline Hanson. They might refer to Pauline Hanson, who is incredibly conservative, as a C-U-N-T.
Half the time that they use it, it's in a positive way. Like, he's a good cunt, he's a good guy, he's a good man. Oh, dude, he's a fucking mad cunt, sick cunt, dirty cunt. I don't know, you can just put it with whatever.
I don't know about dirty cunt. I don't think I'd say that. That guy's a dirty cunt. I might say that if the guy's really filthy, like he makes bad, sexist, dirty jokes. Oh, he's a cunt. He's a dirty cunt.
Where do you want? I do have to say though, it really does just fit the Aussie accent well, because I cannot say it. Like this, for this video is like really the only time that I've said it. However, when I'm around Aussies and they say it, it's like when I first came here, I was kind of like, oh, like you know, it catches your attention. Now when they talk and they say it, like I literally just in one ear, out the other. It's like any other word. If you want to learn more Aussie,
gets desensitized by it. Anyway, so that's it for today, guys. Hopefully you learned some stuff. Hopefully you didn't get too grossed out, right? Hopefully it didn't make you feel gross, sick, disgusted. I don't normally talk about this sort of stuff, but I think it's important to sort of, you know, allow you to become aware of this kind of material as it is out there, and particularly if you're a bloke in Australia, you are likely to mingle with other Australian blokes, guys who use this kind of language, okay? So anyway, with great power comes great responsibility. So use these swear words wisely, and if in doubt, go without. Anyway, I'm Pete. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.